Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. Today, we have a truly remarkable guest with joining us. Someone with incredible wisdom gained from decades at the forefront of keeping big businesses safe. We have honored to have Mr. Sridhar Kalyanasundaram with us. Sridhar has spent over 40 years working in banks and financial companies, holding very important roles like chief risk officer and leading big operational teams. He has now a highly sought out after consultant and mentoring, helping companies understanding and preparing for all kinds of challenges. Today, Sridhar is here to share his insights with us in simple and clear terms, helping all of us understand how businesses can stay secure and resilient in fast changing world. So, welcome you, Mr. Sridhar, in the show, and it's really a pleasure for me to have you in the show.
Thank you, Meenaji. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's a pleasure to be on your show, and it's a great privilege.
You have a very big, we can say, experience, and you are helping companies to be safe for 40 years. So, what made you want to do this job? What is the most important you learned about keeping the businesses out of it?
Thank you. Very wonderful question, particularly topically with what's happening around us in the various fields. When I started my career in 1980, there was no technology or very minimal technology at very high-end industries and very minimally available, at least in our subcontinent, of which India is the largest. So as I progressed in my career, technology also was progressing. And one thing that I realized is from all the types of risks a business faces, it faces the largest risk, which is even valid today. It is not after 35 years back. The risk of thinking that they know something which they don't. So some of those in the technology field was very clear and open. Everybody knew that initially knowledge about technology was very minimal and started slowly gathering traction. But people who were managing that technology, the management of the technological issues, application of the technology itself, either they did not understand the help that was being proffered, or they themselves there was no help at all in some cases. So a business technically remained, let's say, unsafe, for want of a use of any other word, from two angles. One is when they adopted something they did not understand. Two is when they did not adopt anything at all. So they were, missing out on opportunities. So this was the reason people like me, I am just lucky to be in that transitional phase at a fairly middle and senior level functionary by that time. So we had a lot of insight into the strategic approach, and we had to implement whatever strategies we ourselves recommended or were part of formation, whatever. So both ends, the formation of policies and implementation of procedures, both were. So the biggest problem that was there was technology, and particularly resilience. Organizational resilience was always a challenge. So people like me started focusing. Otherwise, it was very natural for somebody from a financial industry background to move into consulting, more into the financial aspect, balance sheet management, fundraising and all that. That is typically the model. Very few of us actually chose to move to the technology side of, working on how to help, how to use our experiences so that can be transferred to the next generation of senior bankers, on purpose. So that is what moved me there. To answer your question, madam, that is what made me move there. And in that process, I was able to learn a lot and share the learning along with my actual experience of implementing things during my working career. So that I think is the most important part. Today, the more successful organizations that I deal with, the reason they are successful is knowledge management is given a key. Many of them are actually your students also, Meenaji. They quote your work, your productions. So when they are managing knowledge transfer, knowledge management itself in such a serious manner, those organizations are fairly more successful than those who are not able to manage their knowledge, or probably are not giving it enough weightage. Though they do something, it's not as if nobody does anything, but probably they should do more than what they do. So people like us who, in an advisory role or mentorship role, we suggest to them that they, send their people to experts like you, your courses and other things for learning, so that the benefit is passed on to the organization. An organization by itself is only a paper entity. It is the people, as we all know. What I'm saying is nothing new. The people who populate that organization and who bring in their knowledge, their passion for continuous learning is what keeps the organization resilient. You may have the best technology, but if you don't have your people well prepared or best preparation, then the technology by itself is not going to solve any problems. So therefore, that synchronization, keeping knowledge management as the key stone of or cornerstone of every initiative. We can, tools will keep changing, applications will keep changing, access control has now become zero trust, natural, access control and so on. And probably the next 5 years it will morph into something better by research and other things. But people who implement such newer technologies, newer frameworks, newer practices should be ready. So in my opinion, my little learning in this last 45 years is we have to continuously keep learning as a passion at the individual level, at an organization level, and seek the help of experts, teachers, and highly qualified people like all of you. It doesn't look like it should. There are many, like Binaji is one of the let's say top persons in that list, but there are others also. So approach them, get that benefit, and therefore the organization will be more safe than without that. I'm not saying that is the only silver bullet, but it will definitely help you to be more safe as an organization. I hope I have addressed the point that you wanted me to address.
Very well, sir. Very well. Okay, thank you so much for your wonderful experience. Okay, sir. So, if suppose there is a company and they want to avoid the big trouble, so from where they should start? And can you tell us something like in the time when the company used big planning, something like that?
Normally, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Normally, a big planning happens for a major change in the environment, or they are moving from one type of, let's say, approach from a completely managed service to a completely cloud. Such transitional changes has very big planning, which has got all the rigors. The companies that follow the rigors of change management, all that, they will do it very well. But when you say a problem is big, I have found in my experience that no problem that can have a tag like a big problem suddenly comes and lands upon you, unless it is external, natural causes, for where we have this force de majeure sort of a situation, right? All the other problems are actually small, minor issues that are, glossed over, if not completely ignored. Even where organizations think that they are taking care of little events. In fact, I like to tell in my dialogue with people that every issue starts with a small issue, a small problem. And that error, error is a small problem. They do a rectification and they think the rectification has taken care of the error. But normally, unless it becomes a larger problem like a customer issue or a customer complaint or a legal issue, there is no root cause analysis done. So there is, yes. So by the time it is root cause analysis requirement, the problem has already manifested to a level where, at least mid and senior level attention is sought out. And if that is not done properly, or they want quick solutions, in the morning they identify the problem, evening they should have the solution, sort of an approach, will create a situation where there is going to be repetition and you are not even ready. And that could even actually become an incident, if not a total crisis. So it is, as you can see, yeah, the big problem, as you beautifully defined, actually is the metamorphosis of a small issue that has been in its entire genetical, evolutionary cycle, has been ignored, or quick fix solutions tried out for whatever reason. They may want customer experience, quick to market, all these justifications can be there. But what happens is the root causes are never identified. If they are identified, the necessary rectifications are not implemented. If they are implemented, they are not followed up. So that brings up an issue. It is exactly the same for an individual. It is the same for an organization. It can be very topical only to one unit of an organization. Like a manufacturing company having a manufacturing plant in Chennai, in Nagoda in Maharashtra, and one in Manesar in Haryana, where you will see only one plant having this problem. Why? Because the approach to managing the problem itself is, enshrined in these, let's say, not so robust thought processes. Till that happens, and that is why we go on at GRC, we go on emphasizing it should be tone at the top. A small issue also should be mapped, though it is being managed very well. Temporary solutions are managed, should not be left there. It should be, kept on your radar, if not on your dashboard. So this is where the big problem comes. And by the time it is very big, then the solutions are also very big, costly, sometimes very debilitating. So therefore, an organization needs to bring this as a cultural impact. Every time you can't have the managing director come down to your plant and tell you what to do. So therefore, it has to start, yes, I would say it should start at the MT level, not at the MD level. At the management trainee level, yes. Yes, you should definitely bring it at that level. And conscious, we are all today, after 45 years, I am still able to talk about core banking because our trainers, our teachers who taught us 45 years back when we were very young boys, 20, 21 years old, because they taught us very well. So it is today our responsibility as managers, senior managers, company management, to ensure that this sort of requirement, particularly managing issues. If you don't manage issues, issues will manage you.
Well said, sir. Well said.
So with that, I would leave it for any further extension, madam. I think that is how I would look at any big problem assessment to be done. You don't start at the big problem. You prevent the big problem by starting much lower, much below the surface. Yes.
Yeah. Small problem, when we don't solve it, then definitely it is a spiral effect and it's created havoc for the whole organization. Agree?
Yes, madam.
Yes. So the world is changing very fast, and I is taking everywhere. And the integration of the AI that's introducing, and it's changing the whole AI. So what the biggest new danger for businesses? How can they get ready for it?
Beautiful question, madam. I normally tend to use non-technology analogy for this. World is changing, new models of cars are coming. That doesn't mean immediately we go book the new model of the car for ourselves. We would have to like to look at our resources, whether we need, whether the current technology is using. If you are driving an I-20 or, Keltos, that you don't have to go book the latest model because this current transportation is sufficient for you. I see organizations falling into the trap of FOMO. Fear of missing out. Whether I'm missing out on the social status. Normally, people go book a model they don't want individually only because they want to be seen in the society. The same thing happens with the organizations. New technologies are great. Blockchain is a typical example. 15 years back, when I used training, people used to say emerging technology is blockchain. Even today, 2025, we are still talking about blockchain as an emerging technology in various use cases and other things. Why? Because it is actually not required for your type of business. But we don't want to be seen. There is pressure at the board. Board, somebody asks the managing director, are you not using blockchain? Everybody seems to be using. Immediately, everybody scrambles to see whether I can put it into a product, roll it out into something. Yes, absolutely. So I think there should be a realistic assessment of whether that technology, while we need to learn new things, simply going and running to go adopt it just because it is there in the market, just because that will make me wear another pin on my, pin another badge on my, shoulder, it's not going to help. In fact, it might actually drag your other initiatives, which probably are more relevant to your business, your customers, your product improvisation, and so on and so forth. It will may drag it because you are, after all, in economics, we always say resources. In economics, resources are even referred to as scarcity. Why? Because there is only a finite amount of all resources. So it is more relevant in an organization. So if you are going to that scarce resources you are going to allocate to pursuing a new technology just because of FOMO, you might actually land up shooting yourself just not in the foot, but also your balance sheet. So therefore, organization should be realistic, should be having a very time-bound plan, and very importantly, while we are rushing to go bring competence from vendor-given services, we completely ignore, we seem to be ignoring whether that same competence is homegrown, whether we are able to develop our own persona. So what we are actually using the lack of internal competence to go to third-party management of a particular product that you might actually not even need or a technology. So all these assessments have to be done. At the board level, I have questioned when people wanted to bring in a new technology, I always ask them, is it really required for you? Or are you simply trying to be a Citibank or a Standard Chartered Bank when you are not that? That is very important to be at every level, at the oversight level, at the strategy making level, and at the tactical level. When somebody comes and says, boss, we are not able to work on this, we should listen to it very, very carefully. That sort of feedback tells you whether that compatibility with your existing system, people, processes is high or low, or is it only an assumption? Because these sort of feedbacks are quickly doused, saying, no, don't be a negative person and all that, without listening to the listening. All these are practical issues at the ground level when we want to, adopt new technologies. And if this is not followed, no matter how useful the technology is, it will normally land up burning your finger than actually helping your hand. So therefore, in my advice or my suggestion to not only where I may do mentorship and consulting, even our young audience to your podcast would be sure you want it. Learn about it. You should learn about, all new technologies, but you should be sure that you want it before you jump into it. And that sort of decision making, that sort of approach to decision making probably will be more useful. Certain times you have no choice. Regulators tell you to go adopt something. Then that is a requirement for the entire industry. They're not targeting you. They want it for an industry. They want a particular type of, requirement. So then the approach should be different because that is the law of the land. The regulatory approach, the legal approach, the law of the land. We may have, a different thought about it. Then there are different ways to escalate that. But there you may have to, short circuit. So it is not like there is only one rule, one band-aid that you can be applied for every solution. No, you have to be bringing in that sort of let's say ability to think through the issue, saying what sort of a problem is it, something that I can adopt, and engage everybody internally. That will be always good. Bottom up knowledge, bottom up assessment is always very useful. You listen to voices that are not having opportunities, you give them the opportunity, and of course top down, from management side, certain requirements, and of course regulatory requirement. Then we have a little choice. So therefore, we need to find out how quickly we can do justice to what is required of us. So this should be when we approach anything new. See, if it is already there, we need to maintain it. If it is new, then we start from 0 to version 1. So therefore, it is like, to me, it is like a very well designed and managed change management.
Great, sir. So whatever the resources we have, first of all, we should look at whether 100% of those resources, whether we are using or not. Even in my cybersecurity breakthrough masterclass, there was a guy who was a CCI at the top of the organization, and he clearly told me, "Madam, there are we are implementing so many devices in the different organization in UAE, and over there they are not fully using their devices." When we heard a little bit or something new technology, something is coming in the market, there's a peer pressure is there, of course, and which jump to the new technology. Yeah, I agree on your point. Before going for the new technologies as well, first of all, you should understand whether you really need it or not, how it is going to help in your business. Thank you, sir. So, what is your best advice for someone who wants to work in keeping companies safe, or for any top leader, suppose you are business owner want to keep their business safe? So what would you advise them, sir?
When we talk about keeping a company safe, madam, I think the approach, anybody, even when I have been myself the chief risk officer and, of an organization, when I grew into the role in various other subordinate roles, one thing that was very clear to me from learning from some of the seniors is you are not going to achieve anything yourself single-handedly. So, for example, if you take, let's say, access control as a policy, access control in all the various attributes, different type of access control that we have, types of access control. If you take that as a simple template for our discussion here, you know, why a particular type of access control is adopted for a particular requirement, and whereas a more open access control is probably implemented for a different type of requirement. So this understanding cannot be just with you, because you are anyway supposed to go review everything. So you may have a greater degree of understanding, but is the actual implementing team understanding what they want, and whether their requirements you are able to understand? Because sometimes what happens today, the levels of knowledge are very, very high. When I got into serious IT, it was somewhere in 92, 93, the levels of understanding, the technology advisors like Meenaji and others, they were highly qualified, engineers from various environment like UK, USA, where the environment was already superior to India. So we had trouble understanding them. Today, that is not the case. When we go talk about any technology, the people are able to understand because they have the basic education, the three generations in the last 30, 40, 30, 35 years, very good stuff. So you need to understand that it is not single-handedly done. So we need to get the information across, and we need to accept information from the sources that are managing. So that will give a very refined approach for the organization. Normally, one-way traffic happens. A policy is set, policy is implemented. Very good, which is very good. It's not a bad thing. But in the policy, setting up of the policy, what type of inputs were taken, what type of earlier experiences are being reflected, and so on and so forth. Otherwise, what will happen is you'll have to keep amending the policies as you keep rolling on by what we call continuous improvements and all that. So it is better to even try to front end it as much as we can. Anyway, it's not as if you should stand with a static policy. A policy that is dynamic is always very useful, but dynamism doesn't mean it can change with everybody's input. So again, there is a risk in that also. So we need to be quite moderate about that, and it is very important to take the what do you call team along, the entire team as an organization, and does not stop with your full-time resources. It even includes all the stakeholders, particularly vendor resources, because vendors by design, they manage their own resources. So if that management of the vendor resources are not compatible to understanding your improvements, your design, your objectives, then there will always be a gap. The delta might suddenly grow up to a level where management will have to be done, like what we spoke about at the beginning, the problem management, because it has already grown into a problem. So that way, the approach should be inclusive, and in fact, I would say not just inclusive. It should be the entire data collation for any such, keeping yourself safe as the theme of this discussion. should be from bottom up. Every single iteration should be saying, what can I do better? What am I doing consistently? What can I do better? What is the new thing that I'm going to bring in? So therefore, what would be the social impact on the environment where I'm trying to introduce that? Social here is that regressions that can happen. The regressive impact of any practice. It can simply be a process, or it can even simply be a new generation firewall. A new generation firewall suddenly with the enhanced rules can bring down the TAT where the businesses might be impacted very high. While from security angle it may be very high. So what do you keep your focus on? So when we want to keep businesses safe, we have to focus on security. Security has to focus on business. Business has to focus on security. There cannot be a compromise saying, no, I am bigger, you are bigger, this is important. You sign off so that I am safe. What we call, I have to cover my back. So you sign off for lack of security. This sort of attitude in an organization itself is indication of they are not keeping the organization safe. They are keeping their individual processes or individual buckets or silos safe. That is not going to help the organization, because as we all know, one small crack, where there is no crack only, you can have brute force attacks. One small crack is an open invitation today. So the organization can never be safe.
Yeah.
That is my point. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. It was a great way. Yeah, it's a team effort. Everyone is going to play a very important role in the safety of the organization. A small device which is vulnerable, it can create a lot of trouble in the organization. Hackers just need to enter in the organization. Once they are there, they are able to hide themselves from the other security devices somehow. Because nowadays, AI is empowering them with new and advanced cyber attacks. It's even very hard for our security devices and services to catch their moves or whatever type of attacks they are coming. Uh, and just there are a lot of different type of attacks are there, and it is a collective effort for everyone. Everyone needs to be eyes on everything. So it was a great pleasure to have you, sir, in the show. Thank you so much, and giving us time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, madam. I really deeply indebted to you for this opportunity. I hope some of what I shared would be useful to people, and that would be a great service that I can do. Thank you so much once again for this opportunity. I wish you and all the participants in this podcast all the very best in their career ahead.
Thank you, sir.
Jai Hind.
Yes, sir.